Okay, on to match 3. We won match 1 against Paradoxical. We lost match 2 pretty convincingly against Shops. We collectively punted twice. Yeah, we had too many beers already. Okay, and we get a die roll win.
Ooh, exciting.
This hand feels soft. What do you reckon?
Yeah, so... I mean, technically it's turn 2 Notion Thief, depending on what they're doing. You're a little bit weak against shops if that's what they're playing. I think it's fine to mull just to get a little bit extra protection.
Yeah, I don't think we're really doing anything with this hand. I guess a turn 2 Notion Thief is going to be crushing against blue decks if they don't have Force of Will exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to mull?
We're going to mull.
This is also an awkward hand. That Blight's...
We're leaning very, very heavily on a Brainstorm. The Blightstill's fine because we want that, and we want to just essentially shuffle the Blightstill away early off the Brainstorm.
I'm just impressed we had Blightstill in our openers twice. I think we want to keep the Fluster.
Yeah, that's fine. And we're playing against DJ 5820.
And I guess I'm going to play Misty here so that maybe they think we're on a bug deck.
Yeah, maybe. Doesn't change too much.
Doesn't change too much, but I don't think there's too many decks out there playing Misty, so... The only reason I'm doing it today is...
Scrolling times are expensive.
Basically.
Okay, we're good with that. Sure.
I don't think we care about Time Walk, right?
Once again, explore mode Time Walk. Please, Vintage players, if you are casting Time Walk, be doing something with it.
So when is it correct to cast Time Walk on turn 1?
On turn 1, you've got Tinker in hand and you want to play your second land so you can cast it and you have Force backup.
There we go. So that looks like a potential Tinker?
Maybe?
No? Okay, he's going to pass the turn. And we're going to draw our Fluster Storm.
Okay. So second land and wait.
Why would we wait, Graham?
So why would we wait? Oh god. You're wanting to be the most glacial slow control deck that you possibly can be. Your aim is to always have a counterspell advantage over your opponent in the style of deck you're playing, and if you can force your opponent to play a counterspell when they don't need to, then that puts you in an advantage for the rest of the game. Now, DT is interesting.
I think we let DT resolve, do we not?
So there was a rule in Vintage, which is, I think, the first rule I learnt when I started playing Vintage, which is don't counter the tutor, counter what the tutor gets, unless you can't. So the exception to this is if he's playing Oath of Druids and he's getting a Forbidden Orchard, we're fucked, but we're just going to let it go.
Yeah. And I think currently, look, we have Force of Will and Flusterstorm to protect the Force, so...
And we've got Brainstorm before the Flusterstorm to up the Flusterstorm count and get rid of Blightstill. That's the important part.
Now, is Brainstorm not more risky than just not brainstorming here?
Like, Brainstorm...
Do we brainstorm here?
We don't need to brainstorm unless we need to do something. It's the same as when you're casting it in Legacy. It's the best card in your hand that you never want to cast.
So we leave it go here?
We leave it go.
So I personally have clearly played too many combo decks for too long. I would have brainstorms.
Okay, now we can brainstorm. The brainstorm isn't even that important, but he might try and counter it, which is...
So let's grab an Underground Sea here,
because
we don't know what he's doing, and I think we want to
so
present the possibility of a Red Blast.
We're wanting to really just beta Mental Misstep. Yes, that's what we wanted. Cool.
And I assume we don't let the A-Core resolve.
No, we Flusterstorm. He's got no mana up, so we actually Flusterstorm targeting both the Mental Misstep and the A-Core so that both of them resolve.
Okay, and I'm going to grab another C, I think.
Yeah, that seems fine. We've got the third fetch still.
And we're going to...
One on the
April?
Yeah. How many have we got? 4?
Yep, so we've got 2 on each.
Yeah, sure. 2 on each. Sounds good.
Okay.
So essentially at this point, he spent 2 cards and we've spent 2 cards, but we've countered a better spell than what he had, and our brainstorm still resolves.
And we're finally going to get to pitch that stupid Blight Steel.
Exactly. Just see what he decides to do.
So it's possible he has a hand full of counters here and managed to get rid of everything.
Yeah, just
But I think it's unlikely.
mental misstep. Put both the Flusterstorms on A-call. I would be fine with this.
Let's just hope we resolve the Flusterstorm correctly. Flusterstorm is unusual on Moto in that it's a...
Terrible card.
It's not just a terrible card, it's somewhat like Chaos Orb in that it's a dexterity-based card. I know this sounds very strange, but it's very hard to resolve Flusterstorm correctly sometimes. And I've just done a quick check here, and we have resolved it correctly.
Awesome.
So there's 2 on each.
And then we get to brainstorm. So we're playing into his mind brain trap at that point, but I don't think we care too much about that.
I feel like Cruise is great.
Yeah, so buy still first, and then it doesn't.
We're going to draw one of these cards.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll chuck Jace on top. I really wanted...
Cool.
How do you feel about pondering here?
Why are those tapped?
Why is what tapped?
The underground seas.
Because remember, we had to Brainstorm and Flusterstorm.
Okay, I thought that was on his turn.
Unfortunately, no. He did it on
Okay,
our...
I'm just not paying attention. Okay.
I don't think
that's
there's any reason to ponder here, is there?
No.
Unless we... Oh, I guess maybe if we got a Lotus, we could have Treasure Cruised.
Yeah.
With Force backup, but... I mean, I know we play into Mindbreak Trap, but I don't think we're going to see it that often, main.
We don't care too much. So I think the best force target for the best force pitch card is a Ponder at the moment, and then we've got the option of Treasure Cruising. We can actually Treasure Cruise next turn, but we don't want to do anything yet. That's quite nice as well.
Okay, so I think we Ponder and then dig on his upkeep? Or his end step?
So we haven't played a second blue land yet, so I think we just Ponder for the moment and see what we've got.
Okay, and we're going to Ponder with a C, and we still want to represent Red Blast wherever we can.
Hey look, it's a red blast.
We're going to hold the Red Blast, and I think we're going to dig or cruise.
I think we want to draw the Pyroblast and then wait a turn to dig, and that means that we can dig with Pyroblast back up next turn, just depending on exactly what he does.
Okay, so we're going to go... I think we want to go
Painful Truth bottom, then Dark, then
Dark.
Black. So now we just wait and see what he does. We can counter something if it's relevant, but otherwise we're wanting to dig through time on the turn after this one.
And so we're looking pretty good here.
He does nothing, we do nothing. We're playing a staring game, and we pass
Okay.
turn.
And so we're going
And
to...
he's missed 2 land drops now, I think.
I mean, it's okay. He's currently got the same amount of mana that we do. Now the question is he going to get onto a library?
What's he doing?
Painful Truths?
Painful Truths. Okay.
Do we just let that go? I think we force that, do we?
Dig in response. We just see if he's got counter magic.
And we've-
Pyroblast the counter spell that he's about to play. And then we resolve the dig through time and decide what the best card to pitch forces after that.
Okay, so he's going to force, which is good for us because we're now going to Pyroblast.
And he pitched Duck Faden, so he's getting rid of
He's in
cards.
trouble. This is not good for him so far, is it?
No.
I think we're way ahead on cards at every point here.
As I said, the point is to try and force him to use his counter spells before you do, so that you've always got the advantage. It's interesting, based on a hand at the moment, we're also pitching the Duck if he casts Force.
But that's okay. I think we have Jace, so I think we'd rather resolve a Jace than anything else.
Yeah, so just keep the Jace in mind because we've got 3 mana at the moment, so it's quite possible we want to take a mana source off the dig through time at the moment.
So something like a
Call and a Will are all very tempting. So let's.
Do we want to cast the Jace more than the Will? I think we want to cast the Jace more than the Will.
Looking through those cards, I would rate Acol first. I would go.
I like Mana Crypt or Soul Ring.
Solving above Mana Crypt. Yogg-Moth's Will is good. Mental Misstep isn't too good. Painful Truths is okay. So I think Acol, Soul Ring is where we're going to go. And then that gives us Acol on Jace next turn, if we need to.
Acol, Soul Ring.
Then you need to make a decision on also whether or not you want to let the Painful Truths resolve, because if you want to force the Painful Truths, you actually take the Mental Misstep instead, and that means that we can force using our worst card. Then you Acol and just hope you draw mana to play the Jace.
So I kind of want to force the Painful Truths here. I think we're in the mirror.
Yeah, I think you take the Mental Misstep just because it's your worst card.
And much as I love Will, and I really do love Will, I think we're in a position where we're happy just to pitch a misstep. We know he's not going to misstep what we're doing.
Like at this point, if he hasn't played a counter spell, I think we're free to resolve whatever we want next turn, but we'll see what happens.
I think we're almost definitely resolving an Acol.
Yep.
Do we want a VT for Lotus? And then Acol?
I don't think you do.
Okay. I was asking that because that gets us a Jace.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think we can just wait.
Just Acol?
Yeah, just Acol. See what happens. He might have a misstep.
He won't, because otherwise I don't think the Red Blast would have...
He's got a Force of Will.
Okay.
That's a nice card. Oh, that Will's looking better.
Now, looking at what we've got left, if we VT, that gives us 5 cards in the... No, okay, so we don't want to VT just yet.
We don't want to VT. We want to... like, VT's fine. It just depends on what you want to get there. The Lotus still in the worst?
So I want a Lotus for either Cruise or Jace.
You've got Cruise in hand.
Oh, sorry. VT for Lotus, so we can Cruise or we can cast Cruise or Jace.
Like, it's technically, to some extent, it might be worth VTing for a counterspell here. Just so that we have some form of interaction with him at the moment.
I don't think we want to counterspell at the moment.
Okay.
It feels like at the moment he's burnt a lot of gas.
Yeah. So you can just DAC in that case next turn.
All right, so let's DAC. And I think we're going to pitch VT when we DAC. Do we want to force? Do we want to time walk and then?
Time walk does nothing once again, so we're not.
I was going to let us draw a card off VT.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think we want to do it. I think we want to get Planeswalker down and then time walk once we've got a Planeswalker advantage. He also is not representing mana drain yet, which is good. We'll just see what he does here.
He can Red Blast this if he wants. Yep.
Cool.
And that is completely okay.
So he's down to 2 cards in hand.
And we're still on 4, but we do need to draw mana.
Yeah.
So
time walk at the moment gives you access to... What's he doing?
Painful Truths, I think that's okay.
No, we don't really have a choice at this point. Back up to parity. Time walk at this point gives you access to cast Treasure Cruise while still leaving an Acol in your graveyard. You prefer to leave 2 cards, I think, but... Ziffy?
I really want to leave the Acol there, if we can.
Yeah.
So let's see what we draw for turn. So he hasn't shuffled off Ponder, which I think is probably quite bad for us here. I know we're ahead on cards still. Oh, and we get a Misty.
Misty is nice.
So how do we feel about time walking now to just increase our graveyard?
Yeah, I think at the moment, I think if we're time walking, our play is to force the Jace through, which means that we want to cast VT time walk, and on the time walk, VT for a counter spell, and then on the time walk turn, cast Jace. Alternatively, the Misty Rainforest means that we can tap 3 land, leave 1 land up, and have Dig Through Time and Ancestral Recall in our bin, and then cast Treasure Cruise, draw 3 cards. You can leave just a call and have 2 mana up. It's an interesting set of options at the moment. I feel like it might be worth playing Vampiric Tutor Time Walk, get a mana drain, hold up mana drain next turn, try and counter one of his spells next turn, and then cast Jace off a mana drain. If we go with this line, it puts enough the Time Walk and the VT in graveyard should be enough that we can Treasure Cruise and mana drain next turn. So I think that's where I want to be.
So we're going to lead on VT.
We're going to lead on VT. See what happens.
And this is probably going to, if our opponent is competent, look very strange. So mana drain coming up.
Yep.
And now time walk. Now, people generally don't like countering time walk.
This is mainly because of the reasons I've stated before. You're essentially not doing anything with the card when you cast it. So you want to only counter the time walk when it's got something to do with it, but this time we've done something. So
now, Graham, I have a strange question for you here. At the moment, we have the option to cruise right now without exiling a call. Should we do that?
I think we should Misty and then do that.
That's basically how we... That's what I was saying. So we get a Volk.
Yep, 3 extra cards, and we've got mana drain up next turn, and hopefully good cards.
Now, I don't know if it matters whether or not we use...
I think it might be worth actually tapping 2 mana and leaving maybe a Pyroblast, maybe a Time Walk. Time Walk is very good on a will turn usually because you'll have a lot of card advantage afterwards, but we don't have the will at the moment either.
And we don't know where the will is. We did bottom up before, but it's now been shuffled up. I almost think I'd rather...
It's just a question of what you want your second card to be. We're never beating a Flusterstorm. We're not beating a Spell Pierce, so it's only if he plays Daze, which he doesn't.
And he can't play Spell Pierce or Flusterstorm at the moment.
That's right. Well, no, I mean on his turn.
I actually kind of want to leave blue up in case we draw into something that lets us play Jace.
Sounds good. So let's... I think you lead on the... too late. I think you tap the Underground Sea rather than the Volcanic. Just to once again represent stuff like Pyroblast.
So for those of you who are unaware, Magic Online does let you undo certain actions. So tapping your mana incorrectly is quite easy to reverse.
All selected at the moment. Yes, it was. Oh, okay. It just darkens everything. Weird.
It does, because we're resolving the spell.
I am what they would call a Moto noob.
We still have blue open, which was a mistake on my end.
That's okay. So we've got our drain up.
And we can play an Academy.
Yeah, we can play the...
I think we leave the Academy in hand.
Yeah, there might be a strip mine, but it's... Either way, it doesn't matter too much.
So, once again, we're punting, because clearly beer is amazing.
I'm currently just finished an IPA and I'm onto the Chimay Blue.
And unfortunately, apparently, look, I thought Graham could play cards. Apparently, I lie. Graham's very good.
I'm not sure I believe this. We'll see what happens. So he's mystical tutoring possibly for Painful Truths?
And I think, look, I'm going to let the mystical tutor resolve. I'd rather let card disadvantage tutors resolve.
Yeah, what's he getting? Puts a will. Hello.
So this is going to be.
Will and he's got a counter spell, and this is going to be fun. However, mana drain is tap. Oh, hello. Okay, so I think he's got a counter spell.
I would hope so. He has 2 cards in hand. So we need to drain the will right now.
And we'll see what happens. If he's mystical. Wow.
Okay.
That was a very aggressive mystical tutor.
So, turns out Treasure Cruise is better than Yawgmoth's will. How do you feel about that, Graham?
I think Mana Drain's better than Yawgmoth's will.
My mistake. I said the wrong things. The only things I want here are Mind Break traps.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think...
argument for Grafdigger's Cage, but it's like awkward because it always affects you at the same time. So it's one of those 50-50 things on whether you do anything or not. I think that a Braid is cuttable. I think, yep, a Singular Island is cuttable.
How do we feel about VT? I feel like VT can be cut. Do we want VT or a Braid more? I think a Braid might be better for Time Vault Key.
I think a Braid is a little bit better. The other option is just taking out the Tinker package, and because it is a little bit bad against Jaces and Dak Vadens that he's going to have.
So the reason I personally like keeping Blightsteel Tinker in this particular matchup is we're light on win cons,
Yeah,
and it leads to some very early, very brutal wins. A Braid seems narrow, but I do like it against the Vault Key win con.
And it means you can hit his Notion Thief if he plays it as well.
Correct, and VT is just, it's pretty bad against a deck that's going to be playing 3 to 4 Mental Misstep. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Deluge is crap. I don't think we want to fight with Energy Flux. Energy Flux is just...
It's not the right card for the matchup.
Yeah, it's not really going to cripple their mana. It's not really going to cripple their game plan. They're doing what we do, and look, artifacts are great, but they're not the be-all, end-all.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's have a go at this. See what happens. We're on the draw this time. Now let's see if we can actually keep a hand, because I'm not sure we've done that yet. That is close to a fantastic hand. It just really, really wanted a red mana for that Dak Vaden. As it is, we've got 4 mana sources. We can cast Notion Thief, but not a lot else. I think we mulligan. What's your opinion?
So I'd almost be tempted to keep this off the back of the Notion Thief and 4 mana, but it's a really risky keep. Like, it's
Right,
putting...
That's what I think as well. It's what you decide that you... Like, you can have it on turn 1, which is really, really nice. We are up a game, so I think if you feel like just trying to spike them, I think you can keep it, but otherwise, I think I'd mulligan it if I was playing at a Compel tournament. So it depends if you feel like having fun.
So I think this is a very tough decision for me. We're soft to a lot here. We're going to be soft to a Force of Will. We're going to be soft to removal. I think I actually want to keep this, and let's just see where it goes.
Yeah,
what do you reckon?
Sounds good. So you want to lead on Pearl into Soul Ring, and just see whether he's got a misstep or not.
And we can fight the misstep. We're more worried about a Force of Will, I think, here.
Yeah.
So this is going to be very interesting. It seems like he's very likely got a red blast up. So let's start with the probe. So this is the card that is apparently too good for every format except for Legacy.
It's probably too good for Legacy, and he's definitely got a red blast there. Have a look at it. BT Jace, do we want to screenshot this or something?
I actually think this is a really good hand to keep against the hand that he has.
Yeah, so he's isn't doing anything. So um, so if we can mental misstep the vampiric tutor, it means that we're ahead to an extent. So it's a question of working out how to bait the red blast out of his hand so that we can resolve the misstep on that instead.
I actually think we're in a really good spot. We have force plus misstep up.
The other option is, yeah, so we've got both up. We just see exactly what he does.
I also think I'm going to tap out in his upkeep.
No, so for what? So because if we play the Notion Thief, he red blasts it.
We can misstep that.
Yeah, that's true.
So the fact that we have force and misstep and Notion Thief available, look, we can hold off a little bit.
Yeah, I just think we want to wait until, because I feel like the misstep might be a little bit better on the vampiric tutor, but it just depends on what he decides to do. He has held off on both though at the moment.
I actually really feel like jamming Notion Thief. How do you feel?
Yeah, like go for it. Yeah, just go for it. See what happens.
So it's like a bit of an odd situation that we're in.
Yeah.
It's
Like, I really like the gotcha aspect of being able to just cast it against something like a Jace Brainstorm or a Dark Activation, which is something which is quite likely if we go to the next turn. But it's still fine to have.
so I'm very,
It cuts him off his draw spells as well.
and I think that's where we want to be. Look, he's relying really heavily on. Do we feel like letting that resolve?
I think it's fine. He's probably getting an extra counter spell. At the moment, we know he's got Jason Dak in hand, plus whatever he drew last turn.
Okay, so we're just going to let that happen. And hopefully we're going to... I guess we don't want a DAC at the moment.
Yeah, not yet.
I think we actually
So,
want to...
let me rephrase that. If we get a Dak, it's worth casting it for the purpose of
Drawing 2 cards?
targeting him. So he draws 1, we draw 1, and he discards 2.
Good point. I was thinking about discarding 2 cards, so I get very caught up in DAC's normal mode. So we're going to hope like hell we just rip a red source here.
Yeah, he's not going to have a counter spell, I don't think, yet. He might have one off the VT, though.
Alright, so he's burnt Vamp Tutor, Underground Sea, Reb. He's got Dak, Jace, and Mystery card.
Yeah.
And it's almost definitely not a Force of Will, otherwise I don't think he would have let Notion Thief resolve.
That's fair. And looks like that's finally resolved. Mental misstep, nice.
So I guess we're just going to bash in at the moment.
We're playing the aggro deck. I like that the storm count is just always out regardless of what's in your deck now. It's just like I care about this.
Frustrating thing with the Storm count, if you play Storm a really upsetting amount of the time, it doesn't actually turn up.
So what do you think triggers it?
In my case, normally hitting Storm count 5.
Oh, okay, interesting. But storm count 1 is definitely important here as well. We really want a blue source. And there's a lightning bolt. That's fine.
Let's... Yeah. I think we're in quite a good position here so far.
Yeah. It's just a question of what he's trying to do. Like, we still know those 2 cards in hand. He's got the DAC now, so we might lose an artifact here.
I think we can deal with losing an artifact.
If he plays it, we still force. Yeah, so force pitch DAC.
Yep, okay.
Jace is still the best card of Magic, despite modern thinking it's an okay card.
I mean, look, nobody ever heard of Jace being a good card in any format ever, right?
I thought it was quite good in Standard. Block, Legacy, Extended, Vintage, probably Modern as well. And that is a blue source. I like blue sources. So I think we just jam the Jace. He's got a Jace in hand and 1 mystery cards. If he wants to pitch a Jace to force, we are fine with that.
So let's draw 2 cards a turn, and
1 card.
wow, 2 cards a turn.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so we're tinkering next turn, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's not. Yeah, he gets your blight still, but
I mean, he just pitched a DAC, so he's only got 1 more DAC, and he's in a bit of a tough spot.
oh no, a time walk. Have I mentioned what I feel about time walk in the last 3 matches?
So I think a Time Walk is actually sensible in this particular position. He doesn't really have much else going on.
He doesn't cast it, but
Yeah, so it's a good Time Walk.
Yes.
It's the best Time Walk he can possibly hope for.
I'm just saying, from our side, we don't really care about it.
Unfortunately for our opponent, we kept a greedy hand, and it looks like it's panned out quite well. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're very, very, very close. And I think if we resolve Tinker, we probably win.
Yeah, that's where I'm about at the moment. Wouldn't mind having an extra piece of protection before the Tinker target came out, but
well, we're going to get to see another 4 cards?
4 cards.
So the problem right now is he can deal with, I think, Tinker or Notion Thief, but probably not both. Snapcaster Mage, Bolt.
Targeting Lightning Bolt, targeting Jason Mind Sculptor.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Or targeting Red Blast. Either way, it doesn't matter.
One way or another, I think we're looking quite good here.
Yeah.
I suppose if he's got Force, Jace, then we're in a bit more trouble.
Wait, VT? No, Red Blast. That sounds better.
Alright, so he's going to Red Blast Jace. So Graham,
Yep.
how do you feel about just jamming here?
I think that's what we want to do. I don't think you want to attack. So float a white mana because I think you want to get rid of the Pearl.
Okay, so we do this way?
Yep, that's fine. Cool, let's go to Blightsteel. And hope he doesn't have a DAC. He's got rid of his first one, he might have a second.
Jace is problematic.
Oh yeah, that's true. He does have a Jace in hand. So let's hope he doesn't get mana.
So we're not going to bash here.
Yeah.
And we're going to hope like fuck we get there.
That he doesn't draw a mana source, essentially.
So what does this look like? It does look... It can't be Painful Truths. Okay, it's going to be Painful Truths.
Painful Truths and he's tapped his mana wrong. That's fine. Wait, what?
Yeah, so Painful Truths with Notion Thief in play is a really good interaction. It turns out that if you try to draw 3 cards with a Notion Thief in play, your opponent draws 3 cards.
Yeah.
So, Lotus and DT, I think, means regardless of what we do, we have a deterministic win one way or another.
That's good. Anyway, he may have forgotten that, so on to the next match.
Fantastic.